Hello! Today we're going to be learning how to make pancakes. Now the first thing we'll be starting with is our flour. And as you may notice here, it says, cook before sneaking a taste. But I, for one, think that every man should be the master of his own destiny, and that you should not let anyone tell you how to live your own life. You should always do things exactly your own way. Okay, now, like I was saying, we're gonna go ahead and start with the flour. So we'll just go ahead and take that bag and set it aside. We have our flour container that already has a very handy little scoop inside of it. Now this scoop is a little bit smaller than a full cup. I mean, it's not quite as small as like a half cup, but smaller than a full cup. So we're gonna go ahead and do just a couple scoops of that guy right in there. One and a couple. I'm going to set that guy aside. Alright, next we're going to need sugar. So we're going to take this bag of sugar and just set it aside so that we can go ahead and get in here and pull out our container of sugar. Go ahead and get that off to the side. This one also conveniently already has a scoop inside of it. So we're just going to go ahead and take this scoop, which, if you can go ahead and take a look there, that's a little bit smaller than that flour scoop was. Probably even smaller than half a cup at that point, I would say. Since it's so much smaller, we're just going to go ahead and do, a couple scoops of that same old thing. Just there we go. Get that in there. There you go. Alright, close that bad boy up. Push it off. Alright, next. This one is a little bit strange, but it really helps bring out the flavor is salt. I'm going to go ahead and do just a little pinch of that and go ahead and sprinkle that on there nice and even. There you go. Get that all there. Alright. Now these next two are for fluffiness. First we got just our classical baking powder, standard. So we're going to go ahead and take just a simple spoonful of that. Just not a huge amount, but about a spoonful. Dump that in there. Yep. Alright, go ahead and put this guy away. And the next one, also for fluffiness, this one's a little less familiar to a lot of people, is the cream of tartar. But this one, again, is great for baked goods, for getting that fluffiness in there. Get a nice little scoop of that. Pretty good sized scoop, but not quite as much as we did with the baking powder, excuse me. Alright, just go ahead and get a nice little scoop of that and dump that in there. Yep. Alright. Go ahead and put that in there. Now we're going to go ahead and grab up our jangler and just make sure that we got that all jiggled together. Go ahead and kind of rotate the bowl here and there as you're going to make sure it gets mixed nice and evenly. Oh yeah, all even throughout there, nice and even mixture. Alright. So now we're going to go ahead and set that aside. That's it for our dry ingredients. So next is going to be the wet stuff. And as you can see here, I've measured out just about a half cup of milk because measuring things helps me feel like I know what I'm doing, even though I really don't. But other than that, for flavor, we got some vanilla extract. There's a bit left in this bottle. It's really good for adding a nice touch of flavor into this. So you're going to want to go ahead and get that lid off of there and take up that measure spoon from earlier. And then we're going to want to go ahead and just dump that whole bottle in there because I like vanilla. Yeah, vanilla's good. And then now that's gone, I'm just going to go ahead and toss that out of here. Alright, so we've got a decent amount of liquid in there, but we're going to add just a splash of milk to start with before we start mixing it up. And as you can see, for mixing, I have now switched from the jangler over to this here spoon-like thing. That's because the mixture tends to get stuck in the tines of the jangler, and it's a lot easier to avoid things getting stuck in the tines when your tool does not have tines to start with. So go ahead and get that mixed in there real good. You're going to want to make sure that you guys can see this too, of course. Here, you know what? I'll even scoot you guys in real close and let you get you up close and personal look at that bowl. Alright, and don't be afraid to add some more milk as you go to make sure that does get wet enough. But you do, of course, want to also make sure that you mix in the milk that you're pouring all the way. Because if it's too dry, you can always add more milk later. But if it gets too wet, well, then it's like really hard to dry it out. So I mean, it's just hard. So like, try not to do that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's actually a pretty good consistency right there. You can kind of see it's like a semi-melted peanut butter or something. It's a real good consistency that'll stick together well and let it puff up. So that is the first part done. That is your pancake batter. Alright, and so now we're on to the actual cooking portion of the pancakes. So you'll be able to go ahead and use that mixing spoon from earlier as your measure scoop, and you can go ahead and use that measure spoon from earlier as your scooper scraper. And this pan we're going to want on a nice medium heat, and that's been heating up for a nice little while now. So I'm just going to go ahead. Alright, now, as I was saying, we are onto the cooking portion, and we do want this pan at a medium heat. And if you're holding your hand a couple inches over the pan and feeling significant heat radiating upwards, that should actually be a pretty good sign that the pan's already hot enough. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and take that measure scoop, and just going to go ahead and take a nice big old fatty scoop. Get a big scoop on there. Once you get a nice scoop on, you can even use your scraper scoop to try and catch some drips. Go ahead and drop that right on there. That's not quite enough for a good sized pancake, so we're going to go ahead and take a little bit more of a scoop and just add that in. And as you push down in the middle, it will actually spread out to the edges so that you can make sure that you don't have a nice fatty lump. No one wants a lumpy pancake. Alright, get that nice and smooth. Set our bowl aside. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on to seal that heat in and make sure that it cooks up nice and even, really fluffs up. You notice this does not actually say Pampered Chef, even though I do pamper myself, and you should too. Treat yourself. Now we're going to go ahead and watch this cook for a little while, and you'll notice that it is cooking as we're watching. And as it cooks, some bubbles are going to form, and you're going to want to wait until those bubbles get nice and solid. They're not popping anymore. Although I realize that with the fog on this lid, it's going to be kind of hard for you to see. So I guess that we'll just cut ahead to that point. A couple minutes later, and that pancake's just about ready to go. So I pull this lid off and scooch it in here. You can see that it's got some nice bubbles formed up on the surface, but now they're formed up, they're really not moving at all. They're just kind of sitting there. So that's a good sign. Go ahead and pry at the edges a little bit and see just how this looks on the other side. Let's hope we're doing good and give it a flip. Bam! Yeah, I'd say that's looking pretty good right there. Pretty happy with that. And for the second side, we actually don't need to leave the lid on. How is that possibly a tongue twister? Anyhow, so I'll let you watch this one, even though there's actually nothing to be seen here. It's just gonna fill some time. Yeah. Wow, that time went by fast. All right, let's check on it. Give that a flip. Ooh, yeah, that's looking nice on both sides. So we're just going to go ahead and scoop that off of there and plate that bad boy up. Well, that's looking pretty good. And so you just go ahead and do that however many more times that batter will make. Usually like 4, I'd say. And that'll make a good breakfast. So there you go.